Families raising children with disabilities face a variety of challenges and complexities in financial planning. Developing the right strategies now can ensure that loved ones have the assistance they will need in every aspect of their life. EP's annual financial planning issue offers practical advice and valuable resources to help overcome these challenges. To read more, sign up for
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of REITs Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every REIT you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to REITsAcrossAmerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's REITsAcrossAmerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
Suicide is preventable, and each of us has a role to play in suicide prevention.
Suicide is complex. There is no single cause.
And it's not always a mental health issue. It could be loss of a job or home, financial or relationship issues, pain, or leaving the military.
Suicide does not discriminate. It affects all ages, races, and genders, veterans or not.
If you know a veteran who is struggling, connect with them. Let them know help is available.
There is quick and easy access to services in times of crisis.
Dial 988, then press 1. Talking about it is okay.
Don't keep it inside. Don't be ashamed. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis, Marine Corps veteran and your host. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubuzoo Network. You can find out more on hubuzoo.com. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asak of Asak Real Estate, Army National Guard veteran Mark Holmes of Reapers Detailing Power Washing, and my supporters, Cason Shaving Company and Exceptional Parent Magazine. I love returning guests. I had this guest on, I think, earlier this year, maybe last year. It's a blur. It's been a full throttle kind of year, but she made an impression on me. When she came on the first time, she was coming on as the Amazonian warrior. And I was like, yes, I want to find out more. She's from Philly and believes that, the green and white until you die. That's right, rocket. Audrey McHugh, welcome back to Oscar Mike Radio.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I still have my own foundation, Amazonian Warrior Foundation, where we help men and women that have been sexually assaulted or raped in the military and combat veterans find their way back to how they can kick PTSD in face. So thanks for having me back on. I appreciate it. Go Birds. And thanks.
I still can't believe. I remember the year the Philly Eagles fans threw snowballs at Santa, and no
Right.
one could believe it. And that's what you all are, and you all just own it. You all just own it.
Yeah. I mean, we do have this saying, and I don't I don't call my fellow bird family fans, not particularly. They are family.
Oh,
Um, they are family. The Eagles come out and we support each other and we love each other. And I would say one of the most important things I got as being an Eagle was that, and it was healing after leaving domestic violence and being homeless for a year and the VA not helping me and me putting a Glock 17 in my mouth and pulling the trigger and I'm still here, was when I went to Philly, I really learned if they don't like us, we don't care. And so by adopting that mantra, it really helped with my PTSD. Like, I'm going to be here fighting these people that are trying to kill veterans. And if they don't like me, I don't have to care. And so it was really a self-acceptance journey in how the Eagles helped me heal from PTSD and being raped in the military. So I say they're family to me because they really, I would say, sports helped save my life, and it's something special to me. So go Birds! Trying
well,
to get to
just
that Super Bowl.
we'll close this loop, but there's a lot of us who are kind of cynical about the NFL and sports in general, certain parts of our lives, and you'll see the memes. Well, what's the point of sports? It doesn't mean anything. But there's a Marine I served with who liked the Carolina Panthers, and she was killed while she was in service, and we would watch the Carolina games together with a bunch of us. And you
Hmm.
know what, Audrey, I would give anything just to do it one more time because we were broke. We were, E3s, E4s, all just hanging out in the barracks, eating bag nasties. But for that 2.5 hours, there was no rank. We were just a group of people watching a game. And you know what? That says a lot to me. So I might have to write the Eagles about that. We'll see. Anyway,
Yeah, come get me somehow to get to the Eagles.
there you go. Um, you reached out to me and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh boy, because you're all gas and no brakes, which I love. And you had this thing you want to talk about. And I'm like, okay. And I started looking at it and I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And we're talking about this thing, this organization you support, and this outreach you're on to support
Yeah.
veterans who have been deported. And I'm like, it's a thorny issue. We kind of talked about it before we got recording, but it's a thorny issue in our community, the veteran community. It's a thorny issue in the US. But you're like, hey, Travis, there are veterans who served our country, came in this country, signed up for the military, served our country, are supposed to be either on a pathway or have their citizenship. They get pulled over, they come up on a database somewhere, and they get deported. And I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to happen like that. But so
It's
break
not.
so break this down. One, who you're with and why you're doing this, and then the mechanics of what's happening. Because to me, if you put on the uniform to serve this country, like if you join the French Foreign Legion right now, you're automatically, once you get your little whatever cap that is, I forget the name of it.
Yeah. Is it a beret?
No, it's not a beret. It's the little French Foreign Legion hat. I forget what it's called, and I'm screwing it all up. But the minute you graduate, right, you are a dual French citizen and/or you're just automatic.
Hmm.
So I thought that's kind of how it worked here. So kind of give us the narrative about how you got here because
Yeah.
I'm learning a whole lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah, so I already do stuff with legislation with my own nonprofit, and so I started to build a coalition with VFW and American Legion at the national level. Jewish war veteran, I am a Jewish war veteran, proud member. So I started to build a coalition with them, the ACLU, and
Hey, I just want to say something here real quick. I'm sorry, but this is important to me. Um, if you know nothing else about me, Audrey, um, I I was in Miramar and some guys come up to us and says, "Hey, that's Hawk, right?" Which is kind of weird because no one really knew what Hawk was, even though we were at an air base. Come to find out, they were IDF guys, and they knew what Hawk was because it kept other countries from bombing Israel out of the existence. Moshe Dayan is one of my heroes. I have studied, Israeli history for quite some time, and I just want you to know, if you know nothing else about me for the rest of our time together on this dirt ball, I stand with Israel. I just wanted you to know that right up front, please.
Thank you. As a Jew, I stand with Israel too, and I stand against terrorism. That's what I serve this country for, is to defeat and eradicate terrorism. And the fact is that Israel has to now defend itself against Hamas and Hezbollah, against propaganda. And what is disheartening to me is you're asking a country to negotiate with people that are like bin Laden, and the pressure from people in the US have been the same thing, and they have donated $500 million to terrorist organizations. And again, we didn't start this. October 7th was a tragedy, and it is 3 times the equivalent of what 9/11 here was for us, because Israel's population is like that. So this is the worst attack that has ever happened since the Holocaust. And the fact is you're seeing over almost 2,000 cases of anti-Semitism in the US by itself, and no real strong, fast response to that. For me, having people that are Americans be murdered by terrorists, knowing how I'm Brown Water Navy and that special ops could save Americans, and that didn't happen, is I don't want to say disheartening, because it's not disheartening. It's despicable. You have SEALs that can make a shot to go kill a pirate. One of the best shots that's ever been recorded by a Navy SEAL to rescue Americans from terrorists. And so you would think that these Americans, their lives mattered, and they should have been rescued. And so for 5 Americans to be murdered by terrorists on our watch is a disservice to this country, a true disservice to this country. And we must bring our people home. And you cannot negotiate with terrorists. And literally, one of the terrorists that just got killed, America had a $7 million bounty out for him, because what did he do? He blew up Marines in Beirut. So because of the Mossad, because of the IDF, we've just saved $7 million. But you mean to tell me that we couldn't do that ourselves? Like, UNRWA is a terrorist organization, and America, UK, and other countries have been funding terrorism for years. And this is where we have to make a stop to it, because recruiting rates in the military are at the lowest it's ever been. And in order to ensure that national security is enshrined and that security of this nation is actually taken care of, then we ourselves must recognize that we cannot negotiate with terrorists. We cannot fund terrorists, because our military is already suffering enough as is. So that's my.
I just wanted to say that because, I have friends who are Israelis, and we talk about this, and you can see the pain that this is causing them. And then, I thought for sure when Americans were being held hostage that, even Jimmy Carter had a better response than what we did. And that's not saying much, but anyway, I just want to get that out there because a lot of people, don't seem to understand where I stand. And I just wanted you to know that regardless of all else. But we're talking again about someone who comes to this country, and it's really kind of a gray area, legal or legally, but they go down to the recruiting station and sign up and says, hey, and the recruiter tells them, okay,
Yeah.
if you sign up, we're going to have you on to a pathway to citizenship. You're protected from deportation. And so when you sent me this article from El Paso newspaper, I'm like, I'm not, this can't be for real, but it is.
Yeah.
So again, how did you get started with this kind of advocacy? Because this is not something I've come across very much.
So, as I was saying, I'm building a coalition
Yeah.
because things like the Richard Starr Act needs to be passed. Things like legislation for repatriator patriots, which I'm a part of, and I became their legislative liaison, needs to pass, where people actually who serve this country need to come home. or the fact that the legislation where veterans who are 100% service connected are over income and can't get a VA voucher unless they use the discretionary fund is something I'm working in my foundation to get changed and passed, because veterans have the right to get a housing voucher no matter what service connected they are, because when you become homeless, you're 90% likely to kill yourself. So I started while I was in DC, networking with people and saying, hey, how can we help each other? And I met this veteran who's connected to Black deported veterans. And I spoke to him and I said, what do you mean you were deported? And so we started to talk. And I realized that this was a huge amount of veterans and service members that are being affected. And so, what I want to bring your attention into is in the War of 1812, immigrants were actually guaranteed citizenship. And that the borders, the intent of the founders were to never close the borders, that immigrants were always supposed to be welcome here. So I think that people fail to recognize that the true intent from the founding fathers was to always have open door policy, because it made us this beautiful melting pot of different cultures that allowed separation for a separation of state to actually thrive. So that's one thing. In 1952, this was actually codified into rights for expediting citizenship. And then in the Clinton administration, that was kind of blurred to pass immigration laws because they wanted to be tough on immigration and pass a balanced budget. So what happened is that veterans, as many things, when they try to take $12 million from the toxic burn fund, as they tried to do a couple of weeks ago, we always bear the cost. So that happened. And then in 2017, the Trump administration removed deportation from the DOD into ICE. And so that kind of sets us up with how we're here now. But veterans were guaranteed citizenship back in the War of 1812. Back in the War of 1812. So what is supposed to happen? And we spent a year advocating for this bill for HR 4569 for veterans to be actually returned home, because right now the only way that happens is in a body bag. You can't get your VA benefits, you can't have medical services, and the process of humanitarian parole is supposed to be a year, and that's not enough time to deal with any of these issues. So that's how I kind of got hooked into it, and I found out that veterans were dying in this way and that they had a purple heart. And I couldn't believe it, that my brother, my sisters served this country. Nobody on the front line asked somebody, hey, are you here legally? It's like, hey, can you kill the enemy over here? I'm gonna go this way. Like that's all that mattered. And so when I found out that people were dying in this way, I had to immediately jump in, because I believe in that oath and I can't let us die out there. I almost died. I almost died in my car, and from a Glock 17 due to PTSD. So if I don't do anything, then I'm failing myself and I'm failing them.
So just looking at this, I see several, senators and representatives trying to get this bill through, the HR 4569, which is the Veteran Service Recognition Act. And it's
Yeah.
supposed to do what you said. It's supposed to formally, provide a guardrail around these types of veterans so they can not be deported.
Right. And so what has happened is that many people think that this is an immigration issue. This is a veteran issue. This is a service members issue. The reason why they have put the word immigration around it is to make it political, so that way they don't actually pass anything. When Republicans were actually polled, 90% of them agreed that veterans deserve their immigration status, as in they deserve to be citizens. So what politicians have done, instead of viewing us just as a veteran issue only, you served your country, you get your benefits, that's that. They have tried to tie in the word immigration to it. This is a national security issue. Retention rates are at the lowest it's ever been. The majority of right now of the numbers that are being made up happen to become from immigrants or low level poor service members. And that means that people were here legally. None of these people were here illegally. They couldn't have had the documentations they needed to join the military. They were all here legally. So instead of taking the pathway of waiting for years to be able to have their citizenship, which most of these cases, they would have had their citizenship in 3 years. They were on a work visa, various other options. And they just decided, I love this country so much, I want to serve it. They didn't have to. No one has to make the choice like that. They literally said, I love this country so much, I want to give back and defend it. And what happens is, instead of in boot camp, where they're actually supposed to get their immigration status of becoming an American citizen, it doesn't happen. And so, unless you have a responsible commander that is ensuring that his or her troops are actually being cared for and that their needs are being met, it's being kicked down the can. I've had several service members that I served with that are on this coalition with me that were in direct combat, fighting on the front line. And they were getting told, like, well, you can't have your citizenship right now because we're too busy. We're in war. So the way this is supposed to be rectified is that at boot camp, you actually get your citizenship. So there's a memorandum of understanding, and that we, as we were advocating for this legislation, had no idea that was already in place. And that was supposed to take care of this. It was hidden for a reason, to make this political, to make it political. So now we uncovered this document. And what has been happening is there's been a pilot program in the Navy and in the Marine Corps and the Air Force that if you come and want to serve this country as an immigrant, you will be granted your citizenship after boot camp, much like when we get our VA benefits of our home loan. After that, you serve 180 days, now you have access to it. And now you do your military, your duty. So this has been a great program. Retention rates for people that find under this way, they stay in, they re-enlist. So that's a great way for us to be able to recruit, because most people don't want to join a military that has really turned into corporations. We've had so many secretaries of defenses and of those that are Secretary of the Navy that have no prior military knowledge or experience, that have tried to run this as a corporation rather than a military family. And that has really impacted the ability to be able to recruit. And we have where people can no longer feed themselves if you're enlisted. We have people that are facing food insecurity as an enlisted service member, and they're refusing to actually raise the rates that would actually be able to allow someone to feed themselves as they serve this country. And our retirement rates, they were 20 years and you had full benefits. But because we allowed corporate interests to ruin the military, our retirement has suffered. And so what is the benefit of joining this country to fight it, to fight terrorists, other than honor? We're not incentivizing what is most important, which is honor.
So as a veteran issue, because you've told me very clear this is a veteran issue,
Right.
what's the long-term effect if this isn't rectified? What happens to the military? And for me, I think I even remember the guy's name in boot camp who did this. I know he's from Guatemala, and all through boot camp, he was excited not only to get the Eagle Globe and Anchor, but to realize that he had a pathway now to become a U.S. citizen and bring his family over. And so I just never thought about it. I'm like, if you go through this, you've earned it and then some. Well, let's just say this doesn't get fixed. What is your work telling you is going to happen to our military if we don't fix this?
So right now, I just want to say that I love my military, and I'm advocating, and I'm a veteran, and I'm fighting for us because I can see the cracks. I can see what I've done in counterterrorism coming to fruition in such a way that's greatly disturbing. The things that I wrote about are coming true, only I can tell you that I didn't expect Hamas propaganda to be so easily believed. I never thought that a country that was unified on 9/11, that would, celebrated destroying bin Laden, would then fall subject to propaganda that undermines national security. So I'm going to say I am going to get this fixed. But what's happening right now is clear. We're already in those repercussions. The military's numbers and recruiting, they're just not there. We have delayed in shipbuilding. So basically, like the Marine Corps, for example, has asked for new amphibious units. And since I'm Brown Water Navy, I always try to keep involved in what's going on in my amphibious units. We're weak right now. The supply chain that actually is connected to this are actually being supplied by Hamas terrorists. So we're literally in business dealings with trying to ensure that our military is safe, strong, and secure, and we're dealing with the enemy instead. And so right now, if people do not take this seriously and understand that veterans are dying in other countries that they've never been to, except for when they were maybe young, and they're being tortured by terrorists by information for national security secrets, and some of them are winning. And the only way these veterans come back is in a body bag. And that is the most disgraceful thing we can do, is to use someone for war and then to not actually give them access to VA healthcare benefits or the ability to be able to buy a home after service. Our military is it's at a breaking point. We have veterans and service members that are being raped in the military. And now the DoD numbers were 30,000. Upon real investigation, the numbers of sexual assaults, harassment, and rape are really at 70,000 a year. So let's just picture that of that 50-50, you have a 50-50 chance of suicide just from that. Then multiplied something with PTSD, being affected of that while you're in service. We're literally killing our own at an egregious rate. So please tell me, when there's less than 1% right now that serve, how we're even going to be growing higher than that. We're talking about maybe less than 0.5% being able to defend this country. Tell me how, when we are negotiating a war, we're already in war with Putin. Ukraine and Israel are defending that right now. And the reason why the aid to Ukraine is so important is so that we don't put boots on ground. 95% of that aid actually stays in this country. The shells and ammunition actually are here in Philly. Well, actually a little bit further from Philly, in Scranton. But they're actually supplying that. And so that's employing veterans and engaging and thriving our economy in that way. But can you imagine being able to defend against China right now? Because that is the new target. We're talking about, we have generals and the CNO of the Navy, Lisa Franceschi. She's the 33rd CNO, first female CNO of the Navy. And she's saying in 2 years, we are making sure that we pre-position because we believe we're going to have a war with China. Does it look like they have a recruitment issue? The answer is no, because it's mandated, because they don't have a democracy. So if you don't actually take care of these issues right now, we're not going to have a military to defend.
So what's the name of your coalition? Is it a formal structure, or is it still being built, or is it
Oh
just,
no,
I'm just
so
curious. Yeah.
Yeah, Repatriate Our Patriots, which is who sponsored this bill that I'm a part of, is a 501c, and we're nationally recognized. Who else is on our coalition? LULAC at the national level. I'm also a member of that. The American Legion at the national level, the VFW at the national level, and the ACLU at the national level. And so we have the Black deported veterans, and we also have some work from AMVETS. And so
So
those are
this,
some
so this is like, the three major VSOs, the American Legion, VFW, and AMVETS,
have
combining with a
all
bedfellow
endorsed, yeah, and
with
have all
the
endorsed this bill.
ACLU. That doesn't happen very often, Audrey.
I know.
We don't get along very well.
Well, imagine that. Imagine that they're able to recognize that this is such an egregious issue that violates constitutional law. You got to think that just from this, right? So we know that constitutional law, when Gitmo, for example, that when people were being tortured, and some of them really were tortured, they were allowed things under the Habeas Corpus Act. We're talking about terrorists that we granted rights to. But for veterans who put a uniform on, that have PTSD, that have a Purple Heart, that have a Silver Star, that have a Bronze Star, we're providing them no rights. So tell me how, under the Constitution, that is not cruel and unusual punishment.
I don't know constitutional law that well. I don't. I mean, I've read the Constitution, but I don't know the law part of it that well. It just, again, I find it odd that the French Foreign Legion, the minute you graduate and get your, I'm sorry, no disrespect, the cover that the Legionnaires wear, you're a dual citizen. You're French and your country's dual citizenship. You can go anywhere in France you want to go. So I find
Right,
it odd that they can do that. And they take, and kind of like what you're saying, is they take anybody from anywhere. They don't care, right?
right.
We can't take care of somebody, and it doesn't have to be the fact that they grew up in California, Iowa, or Oklahoma. You come over here, you put your life on the line, you should get certain breaks. And I'm reading about this story in El Paso, which is just,
Mhm.
you know which
Yes.
really kind of like, wait a minute, the scale started falling from my eyes, and I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta learn about this. Mario Moreno, 77 years old, living in Juarez, needed help, tries to go back to and the thing is, the El Paso VA and everybody was working together, but the minute he went to go across the border, it looked like, it's like, no, we can't help you. Sorry, you're deported. See ya.
So,
What was that? How did that happen? Because that's just, man, that
um,
is wild.
So it's been tough. So we had a national coalition day where we advocated on the Hill. All of us came together, and so we spoke to different representatives about, like we went to Tammy Duckworth's office and several others, and we actually presented veterans that are their constituents. And since then, that constituent died. So what happened with Arturo is that he had sepsis. He was a veteran that was service connected, and his daughter simply called the VA and was like, he needs life-saving surgery. He only has a couple of days and he needs the surgery. So the VA said, hey, we accept him. He is service connected. Get him here. And he didn't even want to stay in the country. He didn't even want to come back. He was just saying, I need my VA health care. I'm going to die and I need help. And so the VA said, we recognize that. We will literally send a VA van down there to get you from the border and bring you here to have surgery, and you can go back. Now, it was his legal right to be able to stay in the United States if he so wished, but he didn't even want to fight. He just wanted his earned health care benefits.
Okay.
And so then the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, right? This was moved from DOD because of Trump. Um, Normally, we would be able to track these records and see who's being deported. We don't even have these at all. They're tracking nothing. They're required to, but they're not tracking any numbers of who they've deported as veterans, which is a violation of the administrative policy to begin with. So Arturo is there, and he gets there to the border, and the Department of Homeland Security turns him away. He dies 2 days later. Then he got cremated, and they gave him a full military honor. This man was alive. He was a veteran. He was service connected. There are so many veterans that don't have access to mental health treatment or any of the things that they earned, and they killed him. They killed him. There's no other way to negotiate that or pretend, but the Department of Homeland Security and that representative killed him by their lack of action.
No,
Killed him.
I'm reading this and
And he is one of many. His story is so similar. So similar. This
because
is exactly what it is.
because I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute, if the VA is saying, hey, yes, he is authorized to receive benefits, it means he's met the criteria for years, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's no ambiguity there. There's no like mystery there. So that you have the VA telling the family it's okay and nothing
yeah.
can be done. And so that's when I kind of started to dig into this and realize, okay, wow, this is not just one or two or a happenstance. This everybody who goes through this citizenship path could be at risk here. So you have this act being
So
batted
who would
around,
want to join if they know that?
right? Right. So I'm reading. My other thing I read is Maria Elvira Salazar out of Florida. She's Florida 27th District Republican. Reintroduces the Veterans Service Recognition Act because this is back in 2023, but she and a bunch of Democrats and another Republican were like, wait a minute, this is clearly wrong.
Yeah.
So there
So
are
Padillo, so I just want to say, since I was part of that, it was not a Republican that sponsored this bill. It was Padilla that sponsored it, who's a Democrat, and then we
she
got
reintroduced it.
right, and then we got enough Republican support to be able to say, hey, guys, please stop making this into an immigration issue when these are veterans that served, and this is a national security issue, and veterans are entitled to have their benefits. And so we were able to secure some of their agreement and saying that, yes, this is something that's wrong and that needs to be rectified. What has happened with the bill is that what they do with everything is that they have canned it into the Judiciary Committee. And so Tammy Duckworth introduced similar legislation in the Senate. And so again, when this Congress restarts and we have a new election, we have to reintroduce this every single time. But a lot of this is so similar that the approach for us now is to get this in the NDAA. We're not able to get it into
what's the NDDA? Excuse me.
Oh, so it's the National Defense Fund, basically, of authorization. And so National Defense Authorization Authority or something like that.
Okay.
So a lot of the ways to get things into for the military would be able to have it in the NDAA, besides just trying to have it through legislation, because there's this bill and then there's two other bills that are very similar. But no one's doing anything because there's just saying that it's a campaign season right now and we can't help you. Well, veterans are dying every day because of this. 30,000 veterans are affected by this. And to say that we won't touch it, and that's why we're telling them, this isn't an immigration issue. Don't make it into that. Veterans are dying and they serve this country. Just because some commander didn't decide to actually sign off the paperwork or let them actually go to the citizenship naturalization service isn't the service member's fault. Many of them are not even finding out until something bad happens. And I got to say that many of us are affected by PTSD, and I have the opportunity to go to Veterans Court for something. My brother and sister who served with me, especially a combat veteran that has a Purple Heart, they automatically are supposed to be able to stay in this country. ICE is not reviewing those processes. So we have these pilot programs right now in the Navy, in the Air Force, and in the Marine Corps, and there's resistance, a little bit at the Army, for these programs that you're supposed to right now get your citizenship as you serve. This memorandum of understanding, we found out about it. So I started to make phone calls because I wanted to know if these POCs were real POCs, because Stephanie Miller is a person that is anti-Semitic and racist, and wanted to make sure that this memorandum of understanding of saying, hey, this pilot program that's happening in the military gets destroyed. because she wants to make it into an immigration issue where it's not. It's not. It's veterans choosing to serve this country. It's service members choosing to serve this country. So few of us choose to serve. Why would you stop something like that? So they have introduced, and under the DOJ, the Department of Justice, they have filed a case. And basis of this case is they're using the premise of that, saying that veterans don't get to really have determination by the military, that since there's already a law in place determining immigration status, that the military doesn't have the right to make policy. And so my argument to that, which is clear, because our Uniform Code of Military Justice has been around for a long, long time, and it was enshrined with us to actually ensure that politicians didn't do what they're doing right now, which is to destroy the military for their own political gains. These issues are nonpartisan. However, they have tried to make them partisan. The military is always supposed to be an area where politics doesn't apply. Like for me, serving under Don't Ask, Don't Tell as being a bisexual woman and then being raped for it shows exactly what a policy is flawed. That's a flawed policy. So my argument to that is, and it's the truth, is even the Biden had to write an executive order authorizing that the United States Military Code of Justice would actually be changed, that the chain of command would no longer have access or privilege or right to investigate sexual assaults or rape. He needed to write an executive order. So for somebody to say that the military has no standing, that we cannot make our own policy, that is what this case is about. They just are using it under the guise of immigration in hopes that a judge doesn't see that. So this is not something that is just affecting us as trying to get veterans their rights for service. We're talking about somebody having a court case that could destroy the military's ability to regulate and make law. That's how important that is. Because it's not just about veterans that are getting screwed over because they were supposed to be granted their citizenship. This is a person trying to destroy the military. And I got to tell you, the undersecretaries supposedly have no clue that the generals that we have interviewed and who love having this program in boot camp have no clue. This is an attempt to destroy the military under the radar. That's why I came to you, because I'm raising the flag. I'm saying, guys, this is a national security issue. We let them do that. This is just another thing that they're doing to destroy the military. And I've had enough. I've had enough. We have paid in blood. We have paid mentally and physically. And all they keep doing is trying to destroy our rights. The least we can do is give someone citizenship that actually wants to serve. We got people that want to play on TikTok all day and not even serve this country. Like, you think I don't want somebody that's there that actually loves this country? Absolutely. But citizenship was supposed to be granted in 1812.
So you're raising the flag, which means you want to do more than just raise awareness. You need help. How can people connect with you and how can people advocate where they are right now?
So I just want to say, we do have some good news.
Okay.
100 veterans have been brought home, not in body bags, but home. We need things like people to contact their representative, to contact the different branches of service, to call them and let them know, like, this case must be dismissed. And service members have the right to citizenship as soon as they graduate boot camp. As soon as they graduate, it must happen. The amount of money that is saved from not having to follow somebody for, I don't know, getting a security clearance is in the millions. This makes the most fiscal sense, is that doing it at boot camp, and it's already in place. But if we let this court case happen, It won't be. And then we have to start all over. Because I look at it like the NDAA of next year that I'm trying to actually get my veterans that are already in this situation because of politics home. And I got to hope that of the 30,000, I don't know how many are going to live through the year. That's to fix that. But if we ruin what's going on in boot camp right now, we have to start all over. So people can call their representatives. People can call me. People need to call their military branches of service. Make them aware that this is an issue that's really happening. Right now, our coalition is drafting a letter to go send it to Biden. Call Biden. Let them know. Like, this has to stop. We've been to the White House to discuss this. And, they were like, well, can we legally do something? Yes, an executive order can happen. An executive order can happen right now and saying that all veterans that served, and so some of the issue is they want them to serve honorably. Well, if you got into trouble from PTSD and you have an OTH and literally you got pulled over and this Clinton administrative law made it an automatic felony, you're now a felon. So we're holding them at a double standard just because they chose to come to this country and serve it.
Have I'll let that up. So let's have the links in the Ask Mike Radio show post, Audrey. Let's keep learning about this. Change happens one person at a time. I am extremely happy to hear that 100 veterans got to come back and, didn't come home in body bags. And I think the thing that kind of gets me is, it's kind of hard for me to sit there and hear when a politician says, oh yeah, I care, but it's an election, so I can't care right now, but I'll care later. That just sticks wrong. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, and I've heard it from both parties. I've heard it from both. And what I've told them numerous times is I'm a Democrat, but when it comes to veterans, it's nonpartisan to me. I will never allow somebody that is a Republican to destroy what I served for in this country. So if you need help, I don't care what party you are. We're not supposed to have parties, and not following that advice of the founding fathers or Washington to begin with is why we're in this to begin with. So to hear it, to sit in somebody's office and for them to say to you after you've explained this veteran died, and you guys could have had a congressional inquiry. You could have actually contacted DHS because they're not doing anything. Literally, the parole hearing or the applications being denied, they're not even giving us a reason why. Veterans don't have documentation. We don't have access to these documents. Like, literally just got taken and thrown somewhere. So making sure that people understand that somebody has a felony when it was because of a politician that made a policy to be able to pass a balanced budget is really what needs to be rectified. So it can't just be a bill for somebody that has honorable conditions, because that's just not what happened. They wouldn't have been deported then.
So let's get the links in the Ask Mike Radio show post. Let's keep in touch about this. And I'm Republican in the interest of full disclosure.
I know you are.
Well, you said you're Democrat, so I'm a Republican, but you also know that I've been very, very nonpartisan with OMR. I don't, because, if you're a Democrat serving next to me, citing me in or on my other radar scope, that doesn't matter anymore. We have an enemy that's trying to kill us, and we've got to prevent that from happening. So, and I think it's just, to your point, it's just a wedge now to divide us instead of coming together, and neither pole wants us together. It's scary then.
Because if they can divide us as veterans, if they can fool us, if they can have us carry on their crap for a whole year, then they get to do whatever they want. But when we hold them accountable and remind them that we have an oath to the Constitution and we actually served for that, then you have to be able to really hold them accountable. They are not being held accountable right now. Like, they'll have staffers write legislation and not actually mean it, just to show that they did something. This is where this has to be a nonpartisan veteran issue only. And that's how we strengthen each other, that we say, hey, I'm a Democrat. Hey, I'm a Republican. Hey, my service member, my brother and sister never asked me those questions. They defended my life. They defended me. So make sure you take care of them. I demand it.
Yeah. So give me all the deets in for all of this, Audrey. I will put in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. And thank you for educating me. You know, again, I was under the impression that if you came in this way, served our country, got an honorable discharge, you were set. Nothing to worry about. And you know, Mr. Marrero, kind of like 77 years old, served during Vietnam, fully VA certified, qualified,
Yep.
not allowed to come in, and died. That's a tragedy. So
And we've had at least 10 veterans this year die that way. At least 10. We actually have a wall in the VFW in San Diego, actually dedicated to the veterans that have died this way, to memorialize them. We have a video, actually a movie that was made by Rob, and I'll send you a link to it. It's a little
yeah,
outdated at this point, but it's really showing the truth of what's going on. And it is something that we as veterans can change, because when you start shaming politicians when they're trying to say to you like, oh, well, we're going to threaten to cut down, close down the government, and they're about to go on recess.
yep,
They were just on recess for the summer. They came back for a little bit, didn't even let veterans groups know that before they went on recess that they had already done what they did for the NDAA this year on purpose. And then they're going to go on recess again and collect a paycheck. And I don't know about you, but I'm just 100% service connected veteran. These people who have one of the greatest jobs ever to serve this country, to legislate laws that get to save people, literally are going to collect a paycheck and not do anything, and veterans are going to die because of it. And that's just where they have to be held accountable.
yeah.
So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And anytime I can speak about an issue that can save the life of a veteran, I greatly appreciate it.
Audrey, it's always a pleasure. Won't be the last time, I'm sure, and that's completely cool. And yeah, maybe, the fact that you are an Eagles fan, we are.
Family. I'm an Eagle. Let's just hold on.
Well, I'm saying Eagle, American Eagle, all that stuff. Maybe there's a.
And only an eagle goes on top of the American flag. I remind people of that all the time, that I'm a fighting eagle, right? And it's only me that's allowed on top of that American flag. Nothing else. It's just an eagle. So I'm gonna keep on top of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, I'll have all the information in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. And my position is, regardless of what you did, you served our country, and I met plenty of Marines that did this. The promise was you would be an American citizen, and you have earned it. So this should be honored. And all I can say to the Marrero family in El Paso is I'm sorry for your loss, and our thoughts are with you. And Arturo did not die in vain, it seems like. So, Audrey, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's Charles Oscar Mike Radio. I'm joined by Audrey again, the Amazonian warrior, and with this organization, and we are Mission in Flight.
Remember on it teaches our mission. We care about it and we do it every day. But I think there are things that just hit you and give you a reason to go on. The theme for our 2024 from Roots Across America is Live with Purpose. It just seemed to fit in with the vows of the REAP, the 10 attributes that we feel represent our United States military. I thought, what a great opportunity to put those two things together and show our kids through how we act some of the things that can make their lives better, their communities better, and by doing that, the country better. For me, Live with Purpose, I think, it's a mindset. Set some guidelines and then go out and purposefully make life different, make a change. It's an opportunity to set an example.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action, and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load, co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.